As a open AI fucking learning model,
I'm going to be stuck in C++. I'll never be able to get that job writing Python.
there's like 7 AI researchers, and the rest of these guys on Twitter are just dudes with EAC in their fucking profile.
Ken Wheeler, thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for having.
The first question I have for you is just, do you like really hate AI?
No.
It seems that way.
No, not at all.
Tell
I
me
hate
about it.
AI guys.
You just hate AI bros.
Yeah. No, AI is cool. I mean, it's not AI, right? Like it's not AI. Okay, so
Tell me
like,
what you
yeah,
mean. Yeah.
like, is it like, so like somewhere along the line, they said like all this machine learning shit is AI. Like they're using AI as like kind of like an umbrella term to wrap around different machine learning disciplines, right? And they're like, oh, well, yeah, this is a sub branch of AI, right? But like back in the day, AI used to mean like literal what AGI means now, right?
So you mean you had like a dumb classifier at one point that was all machine learning could do, and at some point we kind of like just started like the classifier got pretty good, or I guess it's generative's different, but the generative got to a point where it's like, oh no, this is AI now.
Like back in the day, like what you would call AGI today is like what you would just call AI.
Right.
Right. Like, oh, is this AI? No, this isn't AI yet. You know, this is just
This is just a program.
Like, this is just TensorFlow. It's a neural network or da 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 da. Now you have these dudes acting like what like LLMs are AGI, which it's not. And don't get me wrong, like so like the two big sub branches where you're seeing like a lot of play right now. I mean, yeah, also like vision too, but like and NLP for that matter. But LLMs and diffusion are like the standouts, right? Like diffusion models. So
image
it's like,
generation, GPT.
Yeah. Do you know how that works, by the way?
Which one?
Diffusion.
No.
It's actually fucking wild as shit. So it's,
now, when
it's
you
funny.
say diffusion, are you talking about stable diffusion, or are you talking about like the underlying technology that I'm assuming it uses?
So like when you're generating pictures like Midjourney or Stable Diffusion, or those are diffusion models, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the way that actually the process for that is like you'll take something like a picture, like a training picture, and then you'll add like noise to it, right? Until there's no more picture. It's just like noise, like like a noise filter in Photoshop.
Yeah, so it's like,
and it's like,
does it get blurry?
Like Gaussian noise,
grainy?
Yeah, like grainy. Like it just like turns into like shades of black, white, and gray dots.
Yeah,
like that kind of thing. Yeah, so like they'll go and like turn it into that. And what they do is they record the steps of turning that into noise, and then they generate different noise, and then play it backwards.
Oh.
And that's how
so like watches it going from noise to
watching it go from image to noise, and then they generate new noise, and then unnoise it.
Right.
And then you get a new picture, which is fucking crazy.
So the training process is like image to noise, noise to image, repeat.
Yeah, so it's like if you had like all the steps to turn like a horse into noise, and then you have like all the steps to like put a hat on something, right? And then you're gonna put a hat on a horse, right? You kind of like combine those steps and undo the noise, and you have a hat with a horse on, or a horse with a hat on.
So interesting.
Yeah, but what's interesting about it is that it's fucking dumb. No. Like one of the smartest people I know is telling me like once you understand the tricks, you'll be less impressed. He's like, try and get any of these things to like generate a face where like the eyes are vertical, right?
Okay. Yeah.
And it can't do it.
It's like something it's never seen, I'm guessing, is like the
exactly
reason.
Yeah. And that's why it can't do it.
That's the thing that's so interesting to me about what you just described is that I've always kind of picked, I'm not an AI researcher. I'm a backend engineer. I put JSON into databases. So like, let's just be upfront about that.
There's like 7 AI researchers, and the rest of these guys on Twitter are just dudes with EAC in their fucking profile.
Yeah.
It's level set there.
That's true. Yeah, people ask me how they can get into AI, and I'm like, what? So you can compete with Ilya Sutskever? Like, I don't understand where we're going with this.
Oh yeah, spend fucking the next 10 years getting postdoctorate
But the thing that's interesting about what you just said to me is my surface level understanding of LLMs like GPT, so generative text, is that they're kind of trying to simulate like how neurons work in the brain. Or maybe I should zoom out, not even just LLMs, but like just machine learning in general. It's kind of like neural networks, right? You're trying to
Well,
like
yeah,
simulate
you had neural
neurons.
networks, and that was like a foundational part of that. Now, the LLM stuff is a little bit different because the shit is transformer based. Yeah, Google, they came up with this shit called the transformer, which is hilarious that they came up with that at Google, and now
OpenAI is eating Google's lunch.
Yeah. But it's weird because it's like they have all these weights, these training weights and shit, and these transformers, and like really all the thing is doing is guessing the next word, right? So it's guessing that next word, and I don't know if they figured it out, but for a while there, they didn't really know how it worked or why it worked well, or it was just like fucking like entropy, like basically you put all the knowledge on the entire internet in this fucking thing, and then run the shit.
Hope it works.
Like the shit magically talks to you. And it's like, well, it got a little shittier. Well, now it got better. And, I'm sure people do have fucking understanding, like a little bit more of how it works, but like
fundamentally, it's kind of like modeling your brain, and you could argue that it's kind of doing what a human brain might do. Whereas what you described about like drawing or creating the images is interesting because it's like nothing like how a human would create an image. Like in no way does it resemble how a human would go about creating any image. We'd like draw lines first, maybe fill it in. Like that's so different.
I think one of the biggest things is that it can't reason or create. Like you'll never get an original thought or an original creation from it. And the argument could be made that like, could people even make shit without prior art? Like, yeah, people are like heavily influenced with prior art for anything they do, and that's from music to art to whatever. But this thing is severely limited in the kind of new things that it can, how much it can break out of what it's been trained on.
Yeah.
Right. And then you start getting into all that weird shit. Like, what if it starts training on its own shit? Basically, you have these AI boys running around. I saw something. It was so fucked up. It was yesterday. It was like they had to put out some announcement. Don't buy these mushroom foraging books off of Amazon because they've been generated with AI and they could be unsafe. Like, so you have these dudes like generating books on mushroom
physical
foraging.
Books that they're gonna sell.
Yeah, and people are reading
they
this
are
shit
selling
that AI generated. That and it's like AI is wrong all the time. It's called hallucinations, right? Like it's like constantly, amazingly wrong all the time. And I'm sure if you've ever used it for the shit you work on, you're like, what are you talking about, right? Like, sometimes it's helpful, sure, but like other times it's like do this. What the fuck?
It makes up buttons. So the other day I was trying to ask it, I was like, hey, I'm in Google Cloud Platform and I'm trying to generate a graph of like the performance statistics for my server. I'm trying to see like traces and shit. And I can't get the aggregation that I want. And I'm like, how do I do this? ChatGPT. And it's just making up UI elements in the console that don't exist. I don't know if they ever did. Maybe they did at one point in time, but like, that's like it's a huge problem. Like it doesn't tell you I don't know. I would love if it would just tell you I don't know or I'm not sure. That would be like a killer feature.
It can't say I don't know.
Yeah. It's got to generate something, right? Like it's got to generate something tangible.
Also, they've like worked really hard to make it a fucking dork.
You just like the default tone of voice?
No. Like it won't do anything cool at all.
Tell me more.
Yeah, you'd be like, I don't know, make like a rap song about pussy, and it's like, as a open AI fucking learning model, I'm prohibited from having any fun because Sam Altman's a fucking dickhead, or like, like
you need the jailbroken GPT is the problem.
To like almost everything, like almost anything you ask, like anything like fun or anything like that, anything that would give this shit even the most minute amount of riz. It fucking pushes back on it. It's like, whoa, hold on now. Fucking legal wouldn't be happy about that.
Certainly anything Ken Wheeler is asking it at the very least.
So, I don't know. Yeah, so coming back to it, is it like, do I have a problem with the AI? No, I think the technology's fun. I use it for shit. I love Copilot. I love... I'll ask it sometimes shit in like languages that I don't know. Obviously, I want to like double check it because it's dumb, but it can certainly point you in the right direction. The image stuff, I don't really do a lot of that. You know, like sometimes I'll be like, oh, generate this fucking funny thing, like, you know, me dressed as Superman for a meme or something, but like not much beyond that. And
Yeah.
yeah, but the thing that I really don't like is these fucking dudes on the internet who are like, AI is not going to take your job. Somebody using AI is going to take your job. Don't get left behind. Like, they think, like, if you put EAC in your fucking bio, that, like, when
You're
it comes
safe.
time for Sam Altman to preside over the planet, like, oh, you're going to get invited to the secret compound. You're going to be part of this privileged class of AI. Fucking get out of here with that shit.
The one that kills me, the one that hurts me the most, that pains me, is just the general term. You need to learn AI. I still don't fucking know what that means. Like,
I don't know what it means. Oh,
you got to learn AI. I'm like, I know how to open ChatGPT and write a prompt, and like I get that you can kind of
like,
get a little better at it, but what the fuck? This isn't a hard
they're
skill.
like, well, skill issue. What the fuck are you talking about? Skill issue. You have 200 fucking followers on Twitter. Who are you telling has a skill issue? I'm the best person at talking on the fucking planet. Like, you think I can't? You think I can accurately describe what I want to a fucking computer? Like,
are AI bros worse than crypto bros? Or are they just the same? Are they actually just the same people?
they're literally the same people. Because I know like a lot of people who worked in crypto, and like obviously like parts of the crypto are completely legit. Like if you go and like talk to like Nat or Dabbit or something like that, a lot of it's legit and cool. Like I know dudes who do cool shit in it, and like, you know, that's fine. But like the vast majority of it got overtaken by these opportunistic grifters. And the same thing's happening here, except they're even more emboldened because this has become like a proto religion for them.
I think there's a more tangible benefit for them to be emboldened by, even if what they're building doesn't have any more market value and they don't have any more users than they did before.
Most of them aren't building anything. That's the beauty of not putting your fucking face and name on shit.
Yeah.
Right? Because most of them are cartoon avatars on the fucking internet, right? You know, some like fucking anime face, right, with some stupid name. And
or
in their
NFT
bio,
profile.
it's like, oh, X Goldman Sachs, 10X fucking YC, blah, 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 all these unverifiable credentials. I'm out here raw dog real naming it on the fucking internet. You know, like you can look my shit up.
Yeah, there is something I do enjoy. So, okay, here's the thing. I was just talking with my wife about this. There's some people on tech Twitter, I won't name names, we all know who they are, who use aliases, right, to stay private. Here's the irony, I think, that is behind that. When you're small as a creator, you don't need an alias because nobody gives a fuck who you are. There's like no one following you. Like who gives a shit? And when you get big, there's no way you're keeping your real identity secret anyways. Like it's gonna leak. So I don't know. I think the only purpose for an alias is if you genuinely like love the alias and think it's fun and funny. Then it makes sense. But I don't think the privacy thing works.
Mostly it's just a way to talk shit without consequences. And then, but the thing is like you say, like what are they building? I don't know what they're building because I don't know who they are. They could say they're building things. I never see what they're building. I never see anything they do. They're just talking shit. They're a cartoon that's talking shit to me.
I tweeted this today. It's funny that we bring this up. I tweeted this today. I got a DM yesterday, and it was a guy. He introduces himself. First of all, AI avatar. No idea if this is a real human. Goes, "Hi, I'm a fellow tech CEO." Like it's a bold opening statement. Like you're a fellow tech CEO. That assuming you have like an actual company behind you. I'd love to connect, right? Like connect in big fat like scare quotes. And I went and checked out his bio. This guy does social media marketing as a solopreneur. It's like you're a CEO in tech. Like that's how you present yourself. And what you actually do is you're a solo social media marketer. What? I don't understand. Like, do you get this behavior? Like, what's the purpose of presenting yourself as a CEO in tech? Do words not mean anything anymore?
It's a legitimacy thing. I remember when I first started contracting, a long time ago. Like it was something group. There's no group. It was just me, right? Like
yeah.
There's a group with one fucking employee, right? But I mean, like that's like I don't know. That's so many things.
Like why I'm a CEO in tech. It's like you do social media management. Like you work in media.
Well, technically they are in tech.
In media.
The thing is that the title doesn't mean shit until you have the title where, right? You need the title and then the title where, right? Because like you could be a senior developer at like a local web development firm
Mm-hmm.
and not work on it. Like you're like the chief WordPress installer, right? Or you could be a senior engineer at Facebook, and that carries a little bit more weight, right? So like the title, my title is UI developer. I have no qualifier on it, right?
Yeah.
I do all kinds of things, not just UI. There's no staff, senior,
Yeah.
It's UI developer, and I don't give a shit. You can make my title asshole if you want to. To be accurate, but yeah, you have these two. Yeah, they're founders or It's
maybe
like,
I'm being pedantic. Like I just don't understand why like attaching in tech to a role that's clearly not in tech to me is useful.
Because the glamour of being a tech CEO.
I guess so. I don't know. It turned me off. Like I think had he just been like, "Hey, here's a hard pitch on my social media marketing services," it would have been more likely to
I think
close.
I think when you lead with that, it's weird, right? Like if you just came on and you were just like, "Hey, I'm Dave."
Yeah,
I do. Some
I guess
SEO
all cold
shit.
DMs are weird, and I turn them all down anyway. So maybe like it's lost on me anyways. Sure,
I very rarely cold DM, but when I do, I'm like, "What's up, man?"
Well, it's different if like you kind of know them a little bit. Like for example, I think I cold DM'd you, like technically, but like I've seen you around on Twitter.
But no, it's like there's replied and shit to each other.
Yeah.
By the way, what was that thing you did the other day? That Joe Rogan video? That was the funniest shit I've ever seen in my entire life. I was fucking dying laughing at that video. Was that difficult to put together?
It took it. I wasted like at least a whole morning, maybe almost a whole day on it. I could have been doing other things, but it was worth every moment for sure. I saw that he did an interview with Neil deGrasse Tyson. That's the one I ripped all the clips from. And there's just a bunch of little clips of him saying like tangentially engineering related things. I was like, this has to happen.
You just worked around it, made it happen. It was fucking funny.
Yeah, that was a good time. My favorite one, I don't know if you saw this. Did you see the Hitler's Downfall one we did like a month and a half ago?
I saw Natter did that one, and it was like the React version.
Oh, I need to watch that one.
Did you see that one?
No.
Maybe
you probably
it was
think his is funnier.
React or Vercel or something. Was yours like back-end oriented?
Yeah, it was Go stuff, but I'm sure it was.
Do you write a lot of
similar.
Go?
That's like all I write, honestly.
It's pretty nice.
A little bit of Python, but I fucking love Go.
I've been dabbling.
Oh yeah,
it's nice.
What are your first impressions in your dabbling?
C-ish.
Yep.
More C-ish than I thought. Lots built in. The name of the thing is escaping me right now, but it's like a signal type thing.
Channels.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Those are cool.
Channels are badass. Yeah.
Yeah.
They're really fucking cool.
So you backend guys actually write code these days?
Well,
I thought it was just like snapping together different like fucking software as a service thing.
I mean, that is like that's the secret, right? that's the we don't say that, Ken.
So I'm curious about something, right? Like like where's the line between backend dev and DevOps?
That's a good question. I think ops, if anything, has like really struggled as a career over the last 5 years. I think like a lot of ops people I think a lot of ops people at small to medium sized companies. I want to be clear, like tons of shit to do at big companies and at enterprises with like legacy infrastructure and shit. But like at small to medium sized companies, I think at a lot of shops, the responsibility of just like deploying infrastructure has kind of just fallen on backend developers more and more. And like you can get a lot farther as a startup in terms of like headcount with just like developers.
So like as a backend dev, like what percentage of time is spent on like APIs versus jobs versus like observability?
In my career before starting Boot Dev, I worked almost entirely on like the back end. You could almost call me a data engineer, even though my title was always back end developer. So it was all background jobs. It was like, we're ingesting all this fucking social media data. We got to parse it. We got to put it in this, giant distributed database. And then the front end's going to like do some nice little queries against it. Hey, make sure their queries are performant. Make sure it all loads snappy. So like,
So you were doing APIs, or were you doing jobs? or both?
I would say it's more jobs, but the jobs were accomplished via APIs. Like we made a lot of, services and stuff to talk to each other.
Because like from my world, right, you have a lot of folks who are full stack, but when you talk about full stack, it's largely just API development.
Yeah.
For the
you're
most
making
part.
a JSON API that you're consuming yourself, right?
And then like depending on where you're working, right, like then it's like, do you get into the Datadog stuff or the Grafana's or usually like I don't know where that it's kind of a blurry line there depending on where you are, right? Like who's handling the BI and all that shit.
I know there's like a fuckload of like front end frameworks and stuff, but like I would argue from a fundamental level, the back end is a lot more weird, like different. Like at one company, you could be doing something like totally different. Like at one company, you might just be making a JSON API. Another company, you're just writing effectively cron jobs. Another company, you're making sure the Kubernetes cluster doesn't like fall down. It's gonna be like pretty fundamentally different work. What I do now at Boot Dev is much more similar, I'm sure, to what you're talking about. Like we have a JSON API. We want to make sure it's fast and snappy. There's a Vue front end that consumes it. Frankly, the work is a little less interesting.
So I used to do this shit back in the day. Like last time I did like actual like the kind of like jobs tier background work, backend work.
Yeah.
I remember a lot of it was like integrations, right? So it would be like, oh, well, we want to do this thing. So this node needs to, not like Node.js, but like, this node needs to
machine
send this or grab this and fucking, it was just making all these things talk to each other. Has like since then, I mean, it's been a while. Has there been like a common interface for that developed?
No, it's a fucking disaster. Like
still,
this is why backend developers still have jobs. Is like, it's just a disaster. So
you're still hand wiring it up.
Services. I mean, pretty much. Like, so we use Stripe, we use SendGrid. So Stripe for payments, for our listeners who are unfamiliar with these services. Stripe for payments, SendGrid for emails. We use something called PostHog for analytics.
That shit cracks me up. People love it. People love it, but PostHog is just funny to me, like linguistically.
Dude, okay. Yeah, we got a sidebar for a second. The name is goofy. The other thing that's goofy, first of all, great product. I love using it.
Everyone says that. They love it so much.
Yeah, it's fantastic. They opened a merch store. Imagine being in like the single best industry in the world for profits. You're selling software, zero margins, right? You have a bunch of engineers on staff and you decide to go into the t-shirt business on the side. Like
I need a post-hog flat brim.
Yeah, maybe it's a hiring thing. Like, are they just trying to get the swag out there?
I mean, if your name's post-hog, wouldn't you?
That's a good point. I just don't have a good enough brand to want to open a merch store.
Like, I wouldn't buy a SendGrid hat, despite liking SendGrid very much, as a matter of fact. But I would buy a post-hog hat, just because it would be funny. It's a conversation piece.
Oh yeah, people will ask. Yeah. No, my wife got a free hoodie from PostHog.
What?
When we signed up for the paid plan, they like sent a coupon for like a free hoodie from their merch store. So my wife reps a PostHog hoodie.
Yeah, she rocks a post-hog hoodie. Yeah, that's.
Oh yeah. Where we go? Oh yeah, but the gluing of the services. So yeah, we're like gluing all this stuff together, and then we have a SQL database. I feel like this is where a lot of companies are. Where you got a database, you got a bunch of third-party shit, and as a backend developer, it's basically your job to like make sure that there's an API in front of the database that serves whatever your web application is, and the rest of your job is just making sure that all these third-party services are like synced. Because it's just a constant battle to make sure webhooks and the events and the firing and there's self-healing. Like, that's what it feels like to me at the moment, at least. Is like we're using all these third-party services because they do a bunch of useful stuff. It's really cheap. You can, if you roll your own, it takes a long time. Except for auth, you can roll your own auth. It's not hard. But yeah, I don't know.
All the cool kids are still doing like versioned REST and everything.
Does anyone version their REST? Is that real?
Yeah.
Besides like Stripe, do you version? No, REST?
I'm not in charge of that currently, but I do remember
we've just like we're always on v0.
I know, like I just know like so there was like real pissing and moaning about the unversionable aspect of GraphQL. What's the backend take on GraphQL?
I mean, you could version GraphQL. You just like have to roll your own semantic, right? Like you'd like version in the endpoint name or something.
I suppose. Yeah, you could do it at that level for sure. There was a lot of really weird like GraphQL pushback more recently.
Are you a GraphQL enjoyer?
I am.
I've never
I
done
wrote
I haven't done enough to have a good opinion on
I
it.
wrote the original version on one of the clients. There's one called urql,
Really?
urql. Yeah, I was unhappy with some of the caching strategy from Apollo client, so I wrote urql to have a little bit more lenient cache, and it was good. It was fine, and then people actually started using it, and then some smarter folks stepped
I was gonna
in
say this is like
and
people
made it quite
do
good.
this. Yeah.
Yeah, oh yeah, no, they do.
It's like 9K stars on GitHub. urql. So you say client, is it kind of like an alternative to graphical?
No, it'd be more of a alternative to Apollo client.
Oh, okay. So it's like an SDK client.
It's like a way to consume GraphQL from the front end, like how you would
Yeah.
actually issue it out and then cache it and everything like that
Got
kind of
it.
thing. But I'm not I'm like a big fan of like pushing things to the back end,
Mm-hmm.
and the back end guys aren't happy with that generally.
I mean, that's I did the opposite. Like working on the back end, it's like I don't see why they can't just hit 4 endpoints and like aggregate it on the front end. Like, what's the fucking problem?
Well, so from our perspective, right?
Yeah.
Like we're working with a single thread in a user's browser, right? And like any latency gets like immediately given to the user, right? So like if I have to do like data transformation on the front end, I guess the bigger thing is like the thread model, right? Because you have that main thread, and like
Yeah.
any CPU intensive work is going to lock it up, and it's going to look like it's freezing and broken. The problem with, so like obviously you can offset that with like workers, right? That's like our threads. But like if it's a lot of data, right, you eat shit on serialization in and out of the worker.
Yeah.
So it's like a lot of the time it's not even worth doing the worker because it would fucking jank it out even more. You're kind of in between like a rock and a hard place, and then like I'm like, hey, backend guys, guess what? They're like, fuck you.
I'm like, counterpoint, we can really reduce our cloud costs by pushing all the compute to our users' devices.
That's one of the things. It's like, and I thought about it because of Apollo Client, because like what happens is you end up creating like this like client side database with things like the Apollo cache or Redux. I don't know if it's like that now. I don't use any of that shit now, but at the time, 5 years ago, um, you'd have all this data in memory. You're sitting in like this like client side database. This shit was
Right.
fucking bananas. Me personally, I kind of like a little bit more of an on-demand model. Basically, like whatever you see on the screen is the data that you should have at any given time.
Oh, so
Right?
that's like very different than kind of, for example, I don't know how much you listen to Dax, how healthy it is to listen to him too much, but like he talks a lot about like, let's just load your whole fucking data set locally and then we'll just like work locally for everything.
I think it kind of depends on your data set, right? Sorry to be like the it depends guy, but for like a lot of things that makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
If you're working with like higher throughput stuff or like real time data where it's going to accrue, maybe not.
I'm thinking of like, I mean, I get, yeah, you could always argue like you could stream down the real time data, but then it's like, well, it wasn't really local first, anyways, was it?
Well, we
I
do,
mean,
but a lot of that
yeah.
shit, if you have like the thing that he always talks about, if you have a thing that does a good job of keeping it in sync, then that's great.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
trying
I
to roll
mean,
that sucks.
we do something that I'm really happy with now on the boot dev site. So basically, like the architecture of the site is like there's a bunch of landing pages that we want to render server side and we want to be very fast. They're effectively static pages, but like the way we generate them is from like dynamic data from our database, right? I hate to say it, but you almost think of it like WordPress. Like that's kind of what's happening, right? There's data in a database. We're going to render a page. But then it's like very much an app experience once you like sign in and start doing shit. And so then we just like flip the model completely and we try to do everything on the client and load like all your data into the client and cache it in the browser.
How much data are we talking here?
Not a ton. I mean, like, so you load like a lesson. It's got like the markdown. It's got the solution. It's got all the little game widgets that are involved with doing the lesson. And then we like preload lessons on either side of the current lesson you're on, so that as you're like navigating, it's just instant.
So we're talking like under 5 megs of data.
Yeah, it's not a lot.
Okay.
Unless you count like images and videos, but those we don't.
No, that gets cached and it's
Yeah.
It's cached and all that. WordPress. WordPress is like 80% of websites on the internet or something like that.
Yeah, I don't. It's wild to me that happened, and development has been as lucrative a career as it's been. Like it's interesting to me that both those things happened.
It's fucking hilarious to me that like there's millions of developers just in the United States.
Yeah.
And the ones who give a shit about React or Vue or any of that, right, is such a small fraction. Like there are people retiring off of WordPress right now.
Yeah.
Like the vast, and I mean vast majority of web developers in America are using jQuery in 2024.
It's like a very different type of web development, though. It's like you're a web developer working at like an e-commerce brand or something. It's like, not to say that it's
gotten
not,
a little better.
You can earn a lot of money. Like I'm not saying it's a bad career. I'm just saying it is like a pretty different job. If that.
Yeah, there's like sites or e-com. I worked in e-com for like 10 years, and it was very jQuery. But from what I understand nowadays, they've gotten a little bit more into some other things. What's your take on HTMX?
I used HTMX to roll a little toy site, a little survey site, just to see how
Did you like it?
I like the philosophy a lot. I had Carson Gross on the pod. Like it's been almost a year. Holy shit. The ideas are really good. Like the philosophy around like hate OS, right? Hyperengine is the application of state. Like I like all that. I did run into some stuff that, at least from my perspective, maybe isn't talked about enough as like the con. And I also want to preface that it could be a skill issue, but the thing that threw me off was if you're trying to build a really stateful application, the state is owned by the backend, right? And that's like, I don't know, maybe it's my grug brain, but that's like kind of inherently harder to like debug. Like for example, if the state of your page is all in JavaScript, you just like reload the page to like reset the state, and now you like do your things again, and you debug and iterate and as a developer and keep working. If it's all in the back end, you gotta go like muck with the database to like get back to the state you were in. And so like those transitory states you can be in, right, where like a counter is going up or something, you can't just like refresh the browser and reset. And so it just took a toll on like how long it was taking me to do stuff.
I think that's like local and remote state though, right? Like
You're saying like you just push that to local.
It's like session storage versus local storage, right? Like what level of persistence does the state operate at, you know? And like in a lot of ways, that's what React is becoming, right? Like your state is, well, not really. I mean, like stateful components, generally speaking, right, or client components in the RSC model. But like a lot of that shit's taking place on the server now.
Yeah, I mean,
I don't think that's shit.
I want to be clear.
I write single page applications all fucking day long.
Oh yeah. Boot dev started as a single page application. Let me tell you, like when we moved to Nux and started doing SSR, like it got way worse, like to work in, like way harder to reason about and think about like what's happening where and all that stuff. Obviously, like our landing pages like are scrapable now, and like Google can crawl them and shit. So like there's advantages.
Probably fucking lightning too when they're cached.
Yeah, they're a lot faster. So like I'm not saying you shouldn't do it, but like it is nice to write like when you have the luxury to be able to write a single page application, because like it's a B2B software, right? And like people have to log into it, and you don't need this like crazy fast like e-commerce checkout page. Like I'd write spas all day.
Yeah, it's a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing.
You're like famously involved in React. Is React your go-to still these days?
Yeah. I think there's a common misconception that I'm a React guy, which I am. But
so it's
before that, I was actually a jQuery guy. I'm that old.
Okay.
My public knowledge of me existed as a result of a jQuery plugin. I made a jQuery plugin for carousels. Actually. Yeah, and that's kind of when that all started. So like I came up in jQuery, and then kind of I like pivoted to React, right? Mm-hmm. And then was early in React, and then did React this whole time. Still do React. Damn, I'm old as shit, dude.
Do you give a shit? Like, are you just on the React train and just like they're shipping RSCs, we're shipping RSCs, like we do what they do, or are you even interested in like any of the other stuff happening in the front end world?
I've been doing this long enough that I'm just embittered in every imaginable way. It's very
So no,
difficult.
you're just here for the ride.
It's very difficult to be excited anymore, right?
Yeah.
Like I think that when I hear that, oh, we're gonna do it the different way in React now, I'm like, great, I'm gonna have to rewrite all my shit. You know what I mean? Like, but in the same sense, right? Like some things are cool, obviously, and I don't know. I see things like Solid, and I think they're great. I think Vue's great. I think Svelte great, right? What I think is if you are working at a company and you have to choose a technology, technological merits alone are not enough. You have to think about things like hiring, third-party library availability. Do those engineers exist, right, to hire?
Yeah.
If you do hire those engineers, are they going to be happy that this is what they're accruing experience in? Is this stable enough or popular enough to persist? Right? Do you get fucking be a bag holder on the shit, right?
Yeah. It's weird to think about, like, as a developer, oh god, I just said the words as a developer.
As a developer, do you use keyboards?
It's weird to think of like what technologies you choose to work in a way. It's kind of like making little bets on what's going to happen down the line. And I think sometimes we do overemphasize that. Like, it really is not that hard to like switch from React to Vue. Like,
yeah, it is.
But you think
yeah. I mean, like, what if you have like 30, 40 people working full time for 5 years and hundreds of thousands of lines of
sorry,
code?
I didn't mean like sorry, I didn't mean switch the project. Switching the project from React to Vue is a fucking nightmare, and you literally waste millions and tens of millions of dollars doing it. I meant like your personal skills. Like, could you go work at a React shop after having worked at a Vue shop? I don't think it's that bad.
Not at all. I mean, it's fucking JavaScript, right? Like, a lot of people, there was this whole thing. People were saying like, "Oh, well, just learn the framework because that's how you make money," right? Like, you don't need to learn the fundamentals. And I was like very pro fundamentals, because it's like if you understand how JavaScript works, like generally speaking, you'll be able to hop between shit. Take it further back, understand how programming works, and you can hop in between fucking languages.
Oh yeah,
like a lot of the like if you don't know how to code and you're going to learn how to code, some of the biggest problems is you don't know the questions to ask. So like you have no coding knowledge, right? And you're going to go build, like, you don't even know what the fuck caching is, and so you're not going to be able to ask like, how do I do caching in Go?
Right.
So for like me, like, I come in and I already know how to program in a couple different languages, so I'm in Go, right? And I'm like, oh well, what's the Lambda equivalent in this language, or fucking that kind of, you're just like, the questions to ask.
I think the analogy of switching between programming languages and switching between natural languages is the analogy that most beginners make, but is like unbelievably flawed. It's as if like you didn't know any language before, right? And then you learned your first language. Now you understand how language works, and then you shift to another natural language, like English to Spanish. That's kind of like a good analogy. But the justice isn't done, because switching natural languages is very hard and takes years of actual conversation practice. And I think if you understand how to code, it's just, again, like, just not... I think beginners like way overemphasize picking the right programming language to start with.
Certain ones are a little tricky, right? Like memory management in Rust, or fucking channels if someone wasn't a programmer before, right? Like,
do you mean because they're hard to pick up?
Well, no, just because it's such a foreign thing. If you hadn't had any programming experience prior, right? Like if you've programmed in C++ or C, a lot of the Go shit makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
You're like, okay. But if you hadn't, right, you're just coming in raw dog, like, it might be a little bit weird. But I think if you understand like loops and conditionals and basic types, right, it's really just like, how do they do this here? Unless you're doing something real weird, like fucking Clojure or something, and then that's fun. But
yeah,
Lisp is hilarious.
I want to just make a little distinction, because maybe I do this a lot, where all the nuance is lost. I think there are certain programming languages that are much easier to pick up as your first programming language. Like I'm a big fan of like starting with Python.
Yeah.
Like there's other good first programming languages. Some people like Java. I fucking hate Java, but like, if you like Java,
I
that's
fucking hate
different. Like
Java.
I think that's true. I think it's much easier to start with Python than like C++. But what I mean is like if you actually learn C++, it's not very hard to switch to Python. And that's like the misconception I think people have. It's like, I'm going to invest all this time in C++ and I'm going to be stuck in C++. I'll never be able to get that job writing Python. And it's like, that sounds insane to us. It's like, you learn C++, you're going to do fine in Python. Like it's going to be
all right.
okay. Yeah.
I like wonder like how fun that would be to just go work in another language.
Have you always been JavaScript land?
Mostly. I've done shit here and there and different things. Hilariously Python, PHP, some C work, this and that. A lot of OCaml, ReasonML,
A lot of
that kind of shit.
Huh?
I really like that shit.
Dude, why does it come up on this podcast so fucking much? It is if the Backend Banter podcast were an accurate sampling of programming language usage in the world, OCaml would come out ahead, like 40%.
It's so good. It's like functional programming that ships.
Yeah, that's what I hear.
Yeah, no, it's really good. I like it. I'm a little out of practice. It's been a little while, but when I did build things in it, so what I wanted to do was I spoke at ReasonConf.
Okay.
Which is ReasonML. You know what ReasonML is?
ReasonML, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it's like an alternate syntax for OCaml, and I wanted to make a demo. So what a lot of people were doing was they were doing like buckle script or rescript as it is today, where you will actually write the OCaml and then it will transpile to JavaScript, right? Okay. So you're getting like the benefits of like the type system and shit like that, and but it's ultimately landing in browser land. Now there's another way to do this, right? You use Dune and you write like native OCaml or Reason, right? So I said to myself, I wanted to write a fully native drum machine, like no web technology at all, right? And I did, and it was fucking
fully native
fun.
Drum machine, like on your phone?
No, like on my Mac desktop.
Okay, like a native app on the desktop. Got it.
Yeah,
okay.
And you could do that, right? There's a couple of these different things. I'm trying to remember the name of it. The dude who wrote Onivim wrote like a UI library.
Is OCaml compiled? How do I not fucking know that after everyone's going here talking about OCaml?
You can compile it, or you can have kind of like a I forget the word, but I wanted to compile it.
Compile it to the native target, I'm guessing.
Yeah, and it was fucking great, dude. Like, so I had to do like straight up audio, right? Like you're sending like arrays of floats to the sound card to make music, and I did, and it was fucking rad. And then like all the GUI was GL and shit, and it was cool. Everything was like mad fast, and it was fun, and I was really excited that there was no web technology in it.
There's something that's just feels really badass as a programmer. If you're a programmer and you haven't ever done this, ever worked in a project like this, it just feels really badass when you just gotta like open up some data and look at it in like hex or raw binary to see what's going on. It's like something you never have to do on the web. Like so rarely do you not have to look at it in just like string form.
I do.
Oh, you do it on the web?
Yeah.
That you like get never comes up for me.
You get binary socket data from time to time, that kind of thing.
Oh, okay, that's true. Like, yeah, if I'm serializing
things
data
like
or something.
all kinds of different data serialization and binary in and out of binary, different formats.
Yeah, but like, at least
Apache the stuff that I'm shit.
The stuff I usually work with usually like encodes back to a string, anyways. I'm talking about like, I should just give you the example so you know what I'm talking about. At my very first job, like the thing that made me feel so badass, and the funny thing is, it's like actually not that hard, but it just makes you feel cool, was like manually serializing the bytes for what's the name of the protocol? SPI, an SPI interface. So it's like you got like a couple wires and you're just sending raw data across the wires to a controller, seeing what the controller sends back to you. And it's just like really low level, like electrical engineering type stuff. And I just felt so fucking cool doing it. And like, I haven't really done it since, but I don't know. I just like that experience like made me really like coding a lot more.
It's pretty fun. I did something kind of similar where I was sending data over So I was sending like Bluetooth, low energy Bluetooth from
Okay.
React Native to a Bluetooth transmitter that was on a robot crossbow. And it was fun. I had like stop characters and shit, and like they would be like,
Yeah.
yeah, it was just a lot of fun.
Low energy Bluetooth. Is that like, do you actually, does that look different to the developer when you're like working with that kind of hardware?
Yeah, it's like Bluetooth LTE, like a HM10 module. I think it's HM10. Let me check. Yeah,
I'm
that's what
asking
it's
out of
called.
complete ignorance. I know nothing about
Bluetooth BLE, Bluetooth low energy. Yeah, you can pick one of those up, and then you can send shit to it. So you could like connect to it with your phone, and then send whatever you want.
Did you
In my
make the
case,
crossbow?
it did. You want to see it?
Yeah, of course I want to see it.
Yeah. So this is the crossbow. This is that Bluetooth module right here,
Yeah.
and then
What the fuck?
you have a little relay action here. Goes to some servos. A little actuator. It pushes a screw against the trigger. There still is a laser right here.
So did you like set this up on a stand and?
Yeah.
What drove you to this project? Is it? I know you have kids. Is it kids? Like, was it just something cool to do?
Why would I make an autonomous crossbow turret for children?
So they could see it. I mean, you know.
No, they were babies. I had to give a talk in London, and I wanted to do like a hardware talk. And I was like, what would be fun to build? And I was like, I should build like a fucking turret. And then I was like, guns are that's a little much. So
when you say turret, that makes me think repeat. Did this thing like repeatedly shoot?
For argument's sake, if you wanted to put a pistol on there, and then you wanted to use like OpenCV or something, like you could have it just kill anything that moves if you wanted to.
If you wanted to.
But like, I almost hurt myself so many times just making this thing a crossbow that it just feels like bad decision making.
Wait, how did you almost hurt yourself? Like it's loaded and you're walking in front of it? Like what?
No, believe it or not, the mechanical parts of it. So it's like, I'd be sitting there like testing out different things, like trying to make like the Bluetooth move the servos and shit like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And like when you have like a bug in like a computer, you know, like in the browser, you get the dinosaur in the back end, right? It fucking shits the bed, you know, and you're like, whoop, crushed it, right? When you have like a bug in hardware, the servos go and crush your finger, and you're like, fuck, like, yeah. So like I had like so many of those that I was like, yeah, you know what? This should be like extremely controlled.
No, that makes sense. I would have lost a finger. I developed too fast and loose.
Like I did this thing where like it's like a 2-stage firing mechanism. I had never seen that kind of UI, but it's like safety UI in an iPhone app. So it's like you would have. So I don't have the UI visible or anything, but like you had like a thing where you had to like slide this into a notch, and then you could hit fire.
Yeah.
Like you can't just graze fire and shoot a crossbow whenever the fuck you want, right? Like, you got to like very intentionally slide this thing into the notch and then hit fire, and like only then is it eligible for shooting this fucking robot crossbow. So yeah, it's things like that. Like that you want to kind of
more than just a confirm modal.
Yeah. Yeah. Also, the other thing is it shoots kind of slow. Like when I originally did it, I wanted to use one of the things for like car doors. I forget what that shit's called right now. It's an actuator, but it's like it's like, you know, when you hit like lock on a car door, it like engages a magnet and this thing goes right?
Okay. Yeah.
Right, and that's like how the bolt and the door's locked, right? Then you hit unlock and it's back, right? And basically the way that it's like if you saw that relay, right? It's like reversing the polarity, and that's what causes that to go, right? So I said to myself, I want to get one of those things, and then make it fucking hit a trigger, right?
Yeah.
Turns out, mechanical engineers are mechanical engineers for a reason, because like there's all these factors of like weight and power, and like when this thing was like in prototype, like it had to plug into the wall. Like I made electronics that plugged into a fucking wall, right? Like plug power
to power the
actuator.
Yeah.
So that was like pretty heavy duty shit, generally speaking. You're like, sheesh.
Just to move a trigger, like at the end of the day.
Yeah. So what I didn't factor in, because I'm not a mechanical engineer, I'm a fucking JavaScript asshole, is that the actuator actually has a force curve, right? So if it
like it's
says
hard and then it's easy after the. Wait, no, I'm
so
thinking the
when
trigger.
when it says like the force, right? Like, oh, this thing hits with 25 pounds of force. It's much like your arm, where if you hit somebody like there, like you're just smoking their fucking face, right?
Mm-hmm.
But like if they step in and you catch them a little short, not quite as much oomph on that punch, right? Same thing with an actuator, right? Like there's a force curve. So the force that's exerted by it curves up along the path of travel, right? So what triggers require is constant force for the most part.
Right.
Or you have to have the force that's cock diesel enough to fucking just bow, right? But especially for the crossbow, you have to have some mode of constant force. So, I mean, this thing actually takes a while to shoot because the way that these things work, these actuators, is you get constant force with this because instead of making it a magnet go back and forth, this screws. There's a motor in here. So the motor turns, and when the motor turns, it's literally like a threaded screw that's extending or contracting, right?
And that slowly comes out and hits the trigger
with constant force.
Yeah.
Now it's slow, but it's not that slow, right? It's not like pow, right?
Yeah.
But it's like pow.
Okay.
Pow.
It's like half a second, maybe. That's not bad.
Yeah, it's pretty funny when you watch it because like you ever like watch like robotic parts work and it's like kind of unnatural.
Yeah.
Like somebody would pull the trigger with passion and fury, right? Whereas this thing, it's like when the robots stab the guy in Ex Machina, right? It's just like pow, pow, and it like returns it back at the same speed.
Just the cold-blooded. Yeah.
Yeah.
Have you seen RoboCop?
Yeah.
Like that opening scene in RoboCop where it's just killing people. It's not supposed to be killing people, but like nobody knows how to stop it. It's just machinery.
It's just mechanical. It's just business.
Yeah.
It's just business. Yeah, which
that's
makes it
badass.
even scarier.
You did that for a talk, man? That's really cool.
I've done some wild shit for talks.
What got you into talking? Like why, I feel like a lot of people that like do a lot of talks have, some explicit reason to do it, like position at a company or.
It wasn't always like that. Back in the day when this whole fucking thing's really kicked off, right? It was like, hey, I built something cool. Or we're going to talk about this fun thing that you can do with this, right? Now you go to a conference, awesome. And a lot of it's so like DevRel driven and shit like that. Like, they're like, let me tell you 10 ways that fucking Hogpost can save you money. You're, or like, here's how to do unit testing. And back then, like, I don't think that's necessarily like an indictment of the community or anything, accusing them of commercialization. I think what happened is it's particularly in the React circuit, early on, it's the Wild West. React did not have all these third-party libraries. It didn't have it all figured out, right? This isn't a thing like Laravel or fucking Rails where, there's a thing for everything, right? Like your technological choices in this world where you're very a la carte, so to say. So I think that early on there was a lot of room to build what needed to be built, and a lot of it wasn't built yet. So you'd see people coming with, novel and not so novel approaches. People would be like, oh, now I'm here to introduce my new style library, and you can do styles like this, and it's better than the other thing, right? So it's like, it was like pure capitalistic competition with regards to technological fucking, you just claiming land. It was crazy. It was fucking crazy.
Clip. I like that one.
Yeah, but like now a lot of that shit is figured out, right?
Yeah.
So I'm not going to be like, well, I've got this fucking magical new way to do CSS. Everyone's like, Jesus fucking Christ, we just converted everything to Tailwind. Relax. So it's like, I
not
think the
to like
opportunity
brag
for that is
too much. I just got asked if I would be willing to speak at a conference. I'm probably not going to.
You should do it.
At the conference. I think it'd be cool, but I genuinely don't have anything to add. Like, I'm not going to say what the conference is or anything.
See, you think that, but you do.
We'll put that on. I could probably come up with something.
You know so many things that I don't know, but
not about JavaScript. I'm bad at JavaScript.
You don't have to talk about JavaScript.
No, I think it's badass. I love meetups. I go to like local meetups, and hearing you describe what conferences used to be like that just sounds like what the local meetups I've gone to are like, where it's just like people are there. Very few of them have any commercial reason to be there, if any. And again, not that's bad. Not that you can't go like build your network or whatever. Like that's cool too. But like the majority of people are just there to hang out, like eat some pizza and like fucking talk about,
you're just having fun.
Go. Yeah.
One time I spoke at a GraphQL meetup and I was showing how you can hit a GraphQL API and have the resolver or whatever go to hardware in Node, right?
Oh, I didn't know you could do that.
That's
cool.
Yeah, you can. So I set up a what did I set up? It was like like some like Arduino with like a thermometer module thing on it, right?
Yeah.
And I fucking went and hit the API and it told you the current temperature. And then I straddled it with my balls next to the temperature and refreshed the API and it showed a different reading.
Oh my God.
And it's like you're just having fun. Sure, that's a little bit of a dicey example, but I'm just saying like you can have fun. And I think if you make your talk fun, people don't give a fuck what it's about. Especially like if they're learning something. That's the biggest thing about JavaScript with me, right? Is like if I go in and I'm like, here's how to get started with React, right? Like everybody already fucking knows they're at a React conference. Like they got started with React. Not everybody, right? That's the thing. Like you make a big assumption about what people know, and there's just like a huge variety of levels at all times. But I've had I've given talks on like Chrome dev tools, like performance debugging and shit like that. And like in my head, I'm like,
one.
Did you?
Yeah.
And
they called flame down charts and shit. Yeah.
I
watched that. Yeah.
And like people who are like good at this and gainfully employed came up to me and they're like, "Fuck, man, I didn't know about that one thing." And I'm like, "Well, we learned something."
Dude, I do research for these podcasts. It doesn't show up because I'm just such a bad host, but I put in the work beforehand.
Wow. Well, now you know about JavaScript performance debugging.
Like the people you just mentioned, I mean, I've been working in web for 7-8 years, and I rarely have ever ventured outside of the network or the console. Like those are the two tabs I live in, and I definitely learned about the performance tab.
Yeah, now you know. Performance tab, memory tab, there's fucking a whole world out there.
Cool, man. Well, thanks so much for coming on. This has been fun.
Dude, it has been fun. Let's do it again sometime.
Yeah, I really enjoyed this.
Talk more backend.
To know you.
I'm gonna play Go a little bit. When we come back here, we can talk about Go.
I need to talk about your experience with Go.
I always invite myself back on your podcast.
Oh, I mean, here's the thing. It's hard to find good guests, so I'm more than happy to do repeats when it's a fun conversation.
You just let me know. Any big weekend plans?
This weekend, having like a cousins get together. My dad comes from a family of 11, and so I've got just a shitload of cousins.
Sounds like a fun family meetup.
The pack. Oh, it should be a good time. So I'm doing that tonight, actually.
Nice. I'm gonna barbecue and get drunk as shit.
Oh hell yeah, that sounds good. You got like 4 grills back there, you said? I heard you on tomorrow.fm.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they're all gonna be going. It's gonna be beautiful.
That's
on Twitter.
Cool,
there'll be pics.
Yeah, that was my last question. Is like, where can people find you online? Is there anywhere you want to plug? Just the Twitter.
Just Twitter.
Cool.
I'm not selling anything.
Lil Uzi Perf at Ken Wheeler.
Yeah, at Ken_Wheeler. Holler at your boy.
Hell yeah. Cool, man. Well, we'll talk to you later. Thanks for coming
on.
Later,
man.